President Bola Tinubu last week signed into law 4 transformative tax reform bills aimed at overhauling Nigeria's complex, fragmented and inefficient tax regime. The new laws, that is the Nigeria Tax Act, Tax Administration Act, Nigeria Revenue Service Act, and Joint Revenue Board Act, form the cornerstone of the federal government's medium-term fiscal framework and the tax policy agenda 2023 to 2026, collectively referred to as the 2025 Tax Reform Act. They are expected to take effect on 1st January 2026. Now to speak on its implications for stakeholders as well as small businesses is an associate professor of forensic accounting and immediate past chairman of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Abuja District, Dr. Kennedy Iwundu. It's good to have you back in the studio, Dr. Iwundu.
Thank you.
Now, let's start with the big one, that's the Nigeria tax bill, which aims to consolidate Nigeria's fragmented tax reforms into a single harmonized law. How do you think this will simplify things for businesses and the ordinary Nigerian?
Yeah, that's a good one. The job the committee did was very holistic and very efficient. If you look at our laws, they repealed about 29 laws and harmonized it into 7. All those Value-Added Tax Act, Company Income Tax Acts, Personal Income Tax Acts, all those acts has been repealed. There were 29 of them, and they consolidated all of them and brought it just to 7 laws in the Nigerian Tax Act. And the benefit of the laws are so much. We have not seen the signed copy of the signed copy by the one the president signed. We are still seeing the final copy flying up and down. And that final copy, we are looking at it, seeing that the companies that have 100 million turnover and below are exempted from tax. And that's a very wonderful one. But there's a caveat there. Those companies must have assets of 200 million and below. Means that even if you have 100 million turnover and below, but your assets are more than 250 million, then you're not exempted. You're no longer a small company. You may have, your company may have 100 million or less than 100 million turnover. Maybe you have a billion assets, or you have 500 million assets. It means that you are not exempted. So Nigerians should understand the nitty-gritty of these laws. We also have the Personal Income Tax Act, where you earn 1.3 million in a year, you are exempted from tax because you'll be granted 500,000 rent relief or rent allowance plus 800,000 that has 0%. But again, for you to earn that rent relief, you must bring evidence of the rent you have paid. Meaning that if you are not unable to bring evidence of the rent you have paid, you may not be able to have that relief. Landlords are also exempted. If you're a landlord, you're not going to enjoy that relief. And again, we also want to let Nigerians know, because there's need to educate Nigerians in this act. If you are doing business, with a business name is not a limited liability company. It's only when you are doing business with a company that you have that threshold of 100 million and below that you're exempted. But if you have a business name, no matter the threshold, even if it's 1 million, 2 million, 10 million turnover, you'll be expected to pay tax, because there's no difference between the business name and your person.
All
but
right.
There's a difference between a company and your person.
Yeah, and in the new law too, small businesses earning under 50 million naira don't have to pay company income tax. How does this help our local traders and startups?
Yeah, it will help. But again, we want to educate local traders that it's only when you have companies. You know, some people don't have companies. What they have is business names. So they don't think that they're operating with a company. A company is a limited liability entity. So formally, I do advise people to leave registering companies and use business name to do their business. But with the way things are going in the country now, I begin to change my advice, say you can leave your business name and register a limited liability company. So Nigerians should understand the difference between a limited liability company and a business name. So when they say businesses, small-scale businesses, so we need to categorize these small-scale businesses. Are they limited liability company or business names? If you are doing business with a business name, it's just like yourself. It's yourself. There's no difference between you and your business name. But if you are doing business with a limited liability company, there's a difference between you and the limited liability company. That is when you are going to enjoy this relief. Do you understand the nitty-gritty of this? So Nigerians need more education so that you don't just gamble when you use your business name to do business and the tax authorities say, you don't say, they said a company's less than this will not pay tax. It's not a company you're operating with the business name. So you have to be sure that you're operating with a limited liability company.
So does raising the tax-free limit from 25 million naira to 50 million naira make it easier for small traders to join the formal economy?
Absolutely. Even from the copy we are seeing 100 million, not even 50 million. Okay. We are seeing 100 million threshold and below. That's why I said we are yet to see the copy signed by the president. But the copy that is available now, what you are seeing is 100 million and below, which is very huge. Meaning that small companies are regarded as companies that have a turnover of 100 million and below. And their assets should not be more than 250 million. In that case, so many people in Nigeria operating with limited liability companies have been exempted from all taxes. But once their threshold is more than 100 million, company will pay tax. And once your asset is more than 250 million, your company is no longer a small company. You're going to pay tax. So absolutely, this is a great way of promoting small and medium-scale enterprises in the country. And once your threshold is hitting above 100 million, it means that you are now a big company and you can start paying taxes.
Yeah, one of the standout features of these reforms is the tax exemption for workers earning 800,000 naira or less annually. How much relief do you think this will bring to low-income earners?
It will bring a great relief to the low-income earners, especially, remember that before the 800,000 threshold of 0% comes, you'll be granted a rent relief first. All that deduction must have been done: National Housing Fund, National Insurance, Health Insurance, pension, mortgage on occupier, all those things must have been granted. So at the end of the day, there's a little the people. But I also want to make it clear that it's easier to ascertain the income when you're working in organized private sector or government agencies. Those people are trading in the market. Sometimes it's difficult to ascertain if they have earned such amount of income to be exempted, because most of them don't have unified records that will show what they have earned. So it's easy for the tax authority to assess that you are earning that maybe that amount of money when you are working where you have a payroll. If you go to the market, it's difficult to ascertain exactly what those people are in the market to grant them such relief. So in most cases, when such traders or businessmen happens to go to the revenue authorities to apply for tax clearance certificate, they may be asked to bring their bank statement. Their bank statement will show if they are earning such income threshold before they will be granted those reliefs.
All right, let's now talk about the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, which sets up a uniform framework for tax administration across federal, states, and local governments. How can this improve coordination? And what challenges might arise in getting all the levels of government to align?
Yeah, I don't think they will have a challenge in getting all the levels of government to align with the unified and simplified tax administration processes, especially in the area of assessment, in the area of enforcement, in the area of collection. The reason is that we have Joint Revenue Establishment Act, Joint Bond Revenue Establishment Act, where the Nigerian Revenue Service, the 36 states internal revenue services, including the FCT, will be meeting to discuss on how they will make sure they have a unified. We want to see a situation where the manner of assessment seen in FCT and collection will be the same manner of assessment seen in Imo State. It will still be the same manner of assessment and collection and enforcement seen in Rivers State, seen in Lagos State, seen in Borno State. so that wherever you go in Nigeria, you have the same manner of assessment, you have the same manner of collection, you have the same manner of enforcement and administration. So I think it shouldn't be a problem, since they have a meeting point, the Joint Revenue Board, where the Nigerian Revenue Service on the 37 state internal revenue service will be meeting to look at these laws and make sure they implement it to the letter.
The Joint Revenue Board and the new Tax Appeal Tribunal, as well as the Office of the Tax Ombudsman, yeah, are meant to boost transparency and accountability. Do you think these oversight mechanisms will build or rebuild public trust in Nigeria's tax system? Or is
Absolutely.
more needed to address skepticism?
Absolutely, it will. But what again we are advocating, I know that we cannot get everything on this reform. As we go, we keep advocating for that. That we want a situation where the tax appeal tribunal will be elevated to the position of the High Court. Right now, the tax appeal tribunal don't have the status of the High Court. When you go to tax appeal tribunal, after their ruling, you take to High Court. After High Court, you go to Court of Appeal. After Court of Appeal, you go to Supreme Court. You can see the 4 stages. Means that the tax jurisprudence is longer and hectic. We wanted a situation where the tax appeal tribunal will be elevated to the position of the High Court. That's number 1. Number 2, the new law brought about tax ombudsman. We don't have that in our law before. Most taxpayers, when they are aggrieved, they don't have anywhere to go. But now, moving forward by next year, if taxpayers are aggrieved, they can go to the Office of Ombudsman and lay their complaints. And though the Ombudsman has the responsibility to investigate, invite the tax authority involved, and see a way to resolve that matter amicably. And where that matter cannot be resolved, the Ombudsman can even take the matter to court for the tax appeal tribunal to adjudicate on the case. So it's a very new and wonderful development in that regard.
So how realistic is the goal of raising Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio to 18% by 2026? And what assumptions support this target?
Yeah, it is very possible if we implement the laws. You know, one thing is about making the law, and that is about implementation.
Sure.
If there's effective implementations of these tax laws, of course, we are going to generate, for example, the VAT physicalization, where it's expected that the Revenue Authority will plug in their equipment and machines to places like the restaurants, the hotels, the eateries, ensure that they remit their VAT promptly without any form of manipulation. So if you get that done, absolutely you're going to generate the revenue. I once said it here in this program that when I traveled to the United States about 2013, many years ago, when I was paying for my hotel bill, the first tax was automatically remitted to the government instantly before my receipt was printed out. Okay. In that regard, you don't need, you're going to generate a lot of money. Right now, it's not happening. Now, the hotels, the eateries will first of all gather the VAT, and at the end of the month, they decide how much they will give to government, adjust their books. But where you have a system where automatically the taxes are generated at sales point and remitted instantly, of course, you are going to generate and make more than 10% GDP based on the tax we are generating.
Looking ahead to 2026, when these laws take effect, what do you think will be the biggest win for Nigerians from these reforms?
The biggest win is that the low-income earners, in terms of individuals, are exempted. The low-income earners, in terms of companies, are exempted. But Nigerians will be happier. I also want to state something clear. Those who are earning higher income are going to pay more. This is taxation of high network individuals. Let me give you an example. Those who are earning 50 million are currently paying about 9.2 million today. By next year, they will be paying 10.3 million. Those who are earning about 100 million are currently paying 18.7 million today. By next year, they will be paying 22.8 million. You can see that those who are advocating to earn more income are going to pay more taxes. So government is a compensating thing. Government have exempted those at the lower cadre and increased the taxes of those at the higher cadre. So definitely the government is going to recover that money at the higher cadre. So what most important is Nigerians want beyond these reforms is to ensure that money generated from this tax revenue the money generated from taxation is effectively used for the betterment of the place, especially in the area of insecurity and infrastructure. Nigeria is faced with a lot of insecurity. Our power sector is still in a mess. The educational sector is not still functioning well. The health sector is still having a problem. Our infrastructure roads are not still in order. And I want to say it here that the whole money being generated is just a fraction of it that goes to the federal government. The bulk of it is being distributed to the 36 states of the federation. So Nigerians should also wake up and ask their governors in their state what they are doing. Because it's not about generating this money, but what do they do with the money? We saw today that in the River State about, is it 24 billion was budgeted for CCTV. So it's not about generating this money, but about transparency and accountability.
All right.
I have said it we have what we call tax transparency. And in tax transparency, the taxpayer is expected to honestly declare their income and pay their taxes. Then the government is expected to show accountability and transparency in the use of taxpayers' money.
All right. Dr. Kennedy Iwundu, it's always a pleasure to have you on Business Express. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Great.